Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Association Experience podcast. We are your hosts, Dr. Jared Hill. I'm Dr. Dan Nelson. It's good to have you guys listening with us again. How's it going, Jared?
Good. It's a beautiful day. We had our open house last night for our new location up in Ketchum. It was great. We had, I don't know, somewhere between 60 and 80 people come through and just tour the small little office, and it was fun. It was a good time. So we had a little bit of a party last night and right back to work again this morning as we're obviously to do this podcast today. So I thought it was good.
I didn't even realize we had that many people there. Had no idea.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was great. We talked to the Chamber of Commerce, and they said usually with open houses, you'll have maybe 20 to 30 people. It's generally about the same people who just go for the wine and food. But we had quite a few of our existing patients come through and invite some people to come. And so, no, I thought it was great. And what was interesting was we had our whole team up there, and we had a lot of conversations and a lot of comments from our patients about how important the team is. I sat and talked with one patient for a while. He's like, I see the hygienist more than I see you guys, and about the relationships that they have. And as we're having these conversations, it made me think about this, what we were going to talk about today. We have this great podcast set up today where we're going to talk about concepts. Actually, that's talked about a lot in Traction from Gino Wickman. I don't think that he created it. I think it's a general business concept, but he advocates for it. And as you know, we've taken EOS from Traction and we have customized it for a dental office. And so we have this concept of the right people in the right seats. And so today's episode is gonna be awesome. We're gonna talk about today about why that's important. What are the good things that can happen from it? You go to an open house to get your patients come and tell you how incredible your team or your staff is. That means you probably have some people that are some of the right people that are in the right seats, if not all of them. So we'll talk about some of the pitfalls today. Maybe some things that dentists do as far as why maybe we put wrong people in the right seats, or maybe they're the right person, and maybe they're in the wrong seat. That's a thing as well. So we'll dive into that today, and I'm excited about this podcast today.
Yeah, and what's cool about this topic is that, I get it. It's a general business principle, but there are some nuances within dentistry that we're pretty predictable animals, and there are some patterns that we have established over the years, probably because there was less pressure to have to get everything right, and you could probably function under a little bit of a dysfunctional team, and things have changed where that's becoming harder and harder. And, I think that this is a super important concept for us as dentists, especially practice owners, to understand. But also, even if you're not a practice owner and you find that there's, a culture issue or maybe some discord within your office, that a lot of times it is because it's the people, yeah, so this will be a good topic to chat about for sure.
Yeah, it'll be, and I think you hit on the head as far as the dentists make a lot of mistakes generally when we do this because of several reasons, and we'll get into that. But maybe before we start, I kind of want to dive into that because I have some thoughts. But before let's talk about what does that mean. First of all, if you've never heard of this concept of right people, right seats, um, you have people in your organization and you have seats, right, or positions that they hold within your organization, within your practice. So there's in order for that position to be successful, you have to have two things. One, that has to be the right person, and two, that person has to be in the right seat. And when we're talking about right person, we're talking about they have the right core values that align with your core values. I think that's initially where it starts. So, when you set up your practice or when you redesign your practice, when you're putting it together, that's why it's so important. And when we help a lot of offices kind of redesign or rethink through this, we often start with the core values. And Dan, I know you're pretty passionate about these core values and using them, and we hire, we fire, we review, we reward, all based upon these core values. These are the kind of the keystone for determining, first of all, if you have the right person.
Yeah, I've been studying alignment a lot lately. It's not a difficult concept. It's highly studied in psychology, and the whole idea of alignment is basically D do does your interest align with your job description, basically, or the expectations of your job, right? Does your wiring, the way you're wired, does that line up with what's expected out of you, or what feeds you, or what gives you, um, basically allows you to be happy within your job. And so often, we're going to talk about this in just a minute, but a lot of times this concept is that you have the right person. Maybe it's the right person as far as they align with your core values, but they don't align necessarily with their job, and yeah, I think so. It'd be fun to really get into the nuts and bolts of this a little bit deeper. I'm pumped to be able to kind of share some of the things that I've been reading, and hopefully talk about this stuff. Um, so let's get into like why it breaks down within dentistry. Like, so Jared, from what you've observed, why do you think that dentists struggle so much here?
I think that there are certain positions that dentists that is always a struggle in the office, and I think it's for this. This is specific for dentistry. Is people are always looking for advancement. People, your team members, which is there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's what everybody should be striving for, to become better, to earn more, be more useful, to feel more appreciated, all of those things. And so there aren't that many spaces in the office in a dental team where you can have opportunities for advancement. This isn't a general tech company or any sort of other company where you can move up pretty quickly, maybe within different ranks. Maybe there's 7 or 8 different levels. You
Yeah, there's
can
no corporate ladder here.
exactly. So the question is then, how do you, how do you and this is a topic for a different podcast, but how do you help your team members advance without automatically promoting them to a position that maybe they aren't required, or maybe they aren't the right fit for that position.
Mhm.
For example, an office manager. This is an easy one. So an office manager leaves. The obvious thing that everybody does is take their assistant who wants some advancement. She wants to step out of clinical dentistry. She or he has been doing it for 15 years, and they say, I want to become the office manager. Well, so you promote based upon loyalty, right? So she's been here for 15 years, very loyal, very good. She has she's the right person. She has my core values. And so she's then promoted to the office manager position. Um, that may or may not work. You really have to sit down and evaluate, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it, right? Those 3 things. So so basically what I'm saying is we promote based upon loyalty often rather than actually determining whether the person is the right person for that seat.
Right. Yeah, so it's basically you're talking that's what you're saying is, again, what this topic, this idea of alignment that applies there. It's not necessarily that they're aligned with the position, it's just that they've been here a long time and they know the workings and structure of the office, and therefore we equate that with capacity, right? And is that kind of basically what you're saying, is that like we make the mistake of looking at tenure over alignment, and oh man, that's an easy mistake to make. um what are some other reasons that you see, like, so I'll share one that I was just thinking of, is that I think that dentists avoid the hard conversations a lot. It's a natural tendency. Most of us don't like conflict. I mean, who is going to love that? And so we fall within the greater group of human beings that don't like to have the hard conversation. And this starts to break down where maybe someone isn't the right fit. Maybe they're not, or maybe they're confused on their expectations or whatever, but the performance is not where it needs to be. And so often it's like, they I don't know that they get it or they want it or they have the capacity to do it, but I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to have this hard discussion about what's going on. And, I mean, talk about a podcast for another day. I mean, that's an entire podcast in and of itself, just learning to have that hard conversation. It's an art. It is not easy to do. And but it's one of those things that can lead to having somebody, the wrong person in the wrong seat, or maybe the right person in the wrong seat. So that's it's hard to diagnose what you don't have the information on, and to get the information, a lot of times you have to have that hard conversation.
Yeah, and nobody wants you've been had an assistant that you've been incredibly successful with, and she's been amazing, has a great relationship with the patients. But after knowing her for a long time, you just know that she's not the right fit for the office manager, but she's asking for that position. She's telling you she's ready for it, wants it. That's a hard conversation to have. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a very difficult conversation to have. And yeah, you're right. Maybe that's our next podcast, right? What do you call it? The art of avoiding difficult conversations.
Yes, yeah, I think it is. Yeah, that would be good because it is an art.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's why. But as dentists, I think that's one of the first mistakes that we make is when trying to hire a person based upon because they're nice or they're loyal or for whatever reason, right? They may be the right fit, but just not the right person for that seat. So what is if you do that, there's cost to that, right? The cost of getting it wrong. I mean, once you give somebody something, it's really hard to take it back.
Yeah,
Right, and so, when you don't have the right people in the right seat, then, then you get frustrated, right?
yeah,
And not only you, but also this person gets frustrated because they're a high performer. They've been a high performer. That's why you promoted her. Oh, she's a high performer. She's really good. That's why you promoted her in the first place. But she's getting frustrated, but she doesn't want to admit that this isn't the right position or the right seat for her either. And so you have this level of frustration that just builds within the office if you get it wrong.
dude, that's a really good point. I mean, and I didn't even think of that until you just said that. Is one of the things may not be that it's even the wrong person or the wrong seat, but did you promote too early, or you move someone laterally too early, and now you can't take that back. Maybe they're not ready, you're not ready, whatever. And if you don't think that that's the case, go give one of your employees a raise and then go 2 weeks later and try to take it back. it's it's so true, man. Like that, once you make that change, that is a really tough. Speaking about having the hard conversation, that is not the kind of conversation you want to have. So I think that there has to be the groundwork, so we go back to this idea of core values to make sure that they're aligned and they're fitting from the very beginning. I think that what we see often as well is that we make the mistake of trying to build a role around the person rather than get the person to or the people around the roles, right? So often it's like trying to make cookies out of bread ingredients. You're just like, some of them are similar, but the outcome is vastly different. And so even though they both use flour and they both use sugar, that doesn't mean you're going to get cookies when you've got bread ingredients. And we try to do that because it's like, well, it's what we have on hand,
Mhm.
or it's what's available to me. And I get it. There's times where we get desperate, where we're like, "Whew, I got to have someone. I got to have someone." So we hire somebody, and then we're like, "Phew, they don't really fit the role that I'm looking for. So maybe I'll just build a role kind of around them, or maybe we have somebody. Oh, heaven help you if you have to hire a family member. That now we're trying to build a role around this person that you feel, and for some reason you feel responsible to hire them or whatever. I mean, I think we've all been there in some capacity, and it can be frustrating. It can cause a lot of issues and heartache in through over time. So yeah, I think it's important that we that we don't make the mistake of building the role around the people, and instead that we build the people around the roles. There's a quote from Jim Collins that he said, "First who, then what," and I like that, and I think it's important that we don't do the opposite.
Yeah, and if we do make that mistake, and if we do put the wrong person in the right seat, or maybe the right person, but in the wrong seat, another I was trying to think another cost of getting it wrong, another bad outcome of doing that is that your culture within your office is going to become more inconsistent. It's going to hurt it. It's going to People are going to see that. People are going to notice that, and it's going to create resentment, and it's going to create this quiet resentment, meaning a lot of closed door conversations behind your back, and because people may not notice it immediately, but in a smaller office of 8, 10, 12, everybody's gonna feel it, everybody's gonna know it, because what happens then also too is other parts of leadership are gonna get pulled back into the operations. If this person isn't going to full capacity in their position, meaning if they're not in the right seat, they're not going to fulfill all the responsibilities in the best manner possible, and if they're not being fulfilled, it means somebody else has to step up and do them. So you have these other people that are in the leadership team, they're like, "Oh, why isn't she doing this?" And so I guess I'll just do it. So you get pulled back into doing these other things that aren't good, and then the other employees see that, their staff team members see that, and now you have this breakdown in this culture, and it creates almost this inconsistency throughout your team, which is a huge frustration and a burden, and cause of burnout.
So this goes right back to this concept of alignment that I was talking about a minute ago, and what they've found is that when you have someone that is misaligned, or you take somebody that is um, a poor fit, and you take a square block and try to shove them into a round hole, that misalignment over time, in the beginning, they can maybe do okay because of the novelty of the position. And, but over time, what happens is that because of that misalignment, those tasks and jobs that they have to do become tedious because they don't feed them. They're not invigorating to them at all. They actually grind and grate at them, and then they become tedious. And that type of work for someone, when they're doing tedious work, they become extremely mechanical in their actions. And once that starts to happen, their attention gets drawn to other places. And this is what we see when you get someone that's undermining somebody, or they start to nitpick something, or they get into other people's business. So what you can accidentally do is take somebody that is a good employee. If you misalign that good employee, the erosion that occurs from them having to grind out and do the stuff that they don't like to do, that actually drains them, right? So this work that drains them over time, they're going to start to present the symptoms of burnout. And this includes dentists, by the way. So this can be your associate. This can be anyone within your organization. But if that misalignment occurs and they continue to be, this square peg in the round hole, they're going to eventually start to have resentment as well. They're going to resent the position. They'll probably resent you. And that is a really, really disastrous situation in your office, especially if they're loyal to you. We see that so often where you have these employees that are incredibly loyal to the doc, but they're in a position doing the things that are draining to them and outside of their wiring, outside of their nature. And they just, over time, you can turn a high performer into a absolute Terrell Owens in your office. And it can be accidental. You don't mean to, but that is what happens when you're misaligned. And that's why it's so important, this concept of right people, right seats, right? And you end up with an inconsistent culture, like you were saying, Jared. I like that. Um, the other thing that will happen is that leadership gets pulled back into operations. So you create systems, protocols, all these things, right? Well, what'll happen when they get mechanical is they don't care anymore. They're just going through the freaking motions. And like I said, and then worst case scenario, they start to undermine things. That's going to draw you back out of your leadership role and get you down into the operations, which is not where you shouldn't be. The only operations that you should be doing is in the operatory, doing procedures, not operations. So that's a real danger there. Yeah, man, that's it's a high cost to get it wrong.
Yeah, all that happens. And then what you'll notice, what you'll see is that your growth's going to start to stall. And there could be several reasons why your growth stalls, but
Yeah,
this is one of them too. So if you're like, man, I've hit a ceiling, we're not getting like it's just kind of staying the same, and you're trying intentionally to grow, it'll stall and they'll be like, what's going on? Even worse, like maybe it goes backwards. Maybe you're like, man, we are going the wrong direction as a team, as a practice. And if you're not sure why, I would take a look at this. I would take a look and say, hey, are all my people the right people? First of all, do they all align with our core values? Are we all in the same, rowing the same direction? Two, are all my people then in the right seats? Is this person in the right person for this seat? Is this the right person for this seat? And then assess everybody and see if there is maybe somebody who's out of alignment, who's not in the right seat, who maybe gets it. Maybe they want it, but maybe they don't have the capacity to do it. Or maybe they have the capacity, maybe they get it, maybe they just don't want it. There's all sorts of reasons why the person may not be the right person for the right seat. It's the practices that have, the competitive advantage over all the other practices around them are when your team is all aligned and everybody, you have the right people in,
yeah, man.
right. It's not your financial strategy. It's not your that the technology in your office is awesome, and that's a unique, maybe one of your uniques, but that's not what's really going to give you the competitive advantage. And we saw that last night at our open house, right? It's not that we have everybody in the right seat, the right person, but we've done a pretty good job of trying to be intentional as far as having the right people and putting them in the right seats, and ultimately, the people came and showed up and supported us not because of that, not because of the strategy of opening up the second office, or not because of the technology. They came because of the team, right? They came because we're pretty well aligned. We've got some work to do still, and we are currently working on this. But I think that is if you want a unique advantage over your competitors, get this right.
100% agree. So let's break it down, Jared. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this. We've kind of touched on it, hinted at it, but let's really get down and get granular on the um how do we identify the right people? How do we identify the right seats? Let's start talking about, you know, the how do we identify the right people? We kind of gave it away at the beginning, but let's get into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So, I mean, it starts with your core values, right? Hopefully you've set those. If you haven't, set your 3 to 7 core values and make sure that those resonate, make sure they're the right ones. If you're just starting out with this concept of core values, test them out for a few months. Just make sure they're right, because you may think they're right in your head, but as you go about in your practice, your daily life, they may need to be challenged. They may need to be changed or adjusted a little bit, and that's okay. So set your core values, and then as you're evaluating your people, do they naturally live by these core values, or are they trying to force themselves to live by these core values in order to be employees at your office, or do they come naturally? Um, maybe another second question would be, would I naturally rehire them?
Mm,
Right, they're currently in this position. If I had to do it over again, would I be like, yeah, I'd absolutely naturally rehire this team. Um, Another way to think about it is, do they elevate the whole team? A rising tide is going to lift all ships. We like to say it all the time. Or is this ship pulling this one down? Is this one in the crab in the bucket that's pulling this one down? Right. So these are ways to think of, do my employees, are they the right people? Right. Are the right people for my organization?
I think the challenge here is if you've had a practice for a while and you're getting organized and you're starting to set up your core values. Maybe you've never had core values before, but you've had your practice for 15 years and you're like, holy cow, it's getting too competitive out there. I need to get my team aligned. I need to have more of my vision in place. We need to get more streamlined, and you start to build out your vision traction organizer, and you are setting up your core values, and you've been living by these things in the back of your mind for years, but you just have never written them down. You get them written down, you share them with the team, and then you go, "Ah, crap. I've got an employee who doesn't align with my core values." And you ask the question, would you naturally rehire them? And you're like, "Oof, I would not." Then you're faced with the difficult situation. And this is a real situation. And it's where now you have to have um, what John Maxwell calls the 5 minutes of hell, I think is what he calls it, or something like that, where you have to have that conversation of probably letting them go if they don't naturally align with your core values. If they are, you can see it, you've been seeing it for a long time, you may have to make some changes, and that is not a freaking easy thing to do. But it's worth it in the long run. If it's not any different than, and I can compare everything to cars or motorcycles or anything with an engine in it. But if you have a gear in your gearbox that doesn't mesh with the other gears, it's going to destroy all the other gears in the gearbox. And that's what will happen. It will happen. Like it will, you're going to self-destruct at some point. And I say self-destruct because it's up to you to make that change. Right. So I think that's a hard thing. I think it's a little bit easier on new hires if you already have your core values in place, because you can filter out, do these people align with my core values? Are they naturally in alignment? And I get it. We as people are adaptable, and there's some people that are more amicable and easier to adapt to core values. And so I'm not saying that they have to be absolutely in line with every single core value, but do they have the ability to live those core values? I think too is maybe a way to consider that, especially if you live in a small market like we do, Jared, where it's not like we have 50,000 people to hire from. That we have to ask our employees to be a bit adaptable. But can they adapt to our core values and live them comfortably in alignment, every day? I think that's a huge thing, right? Yeah, I like that a lot. That um, knowing that people can be adaptable is some maybe a strength that we need to not discount.
Well, if you look at what happened, Dan, when we did this, we were in that second situation that you described where we had a practice going and we hadn't set our core values. And so we went through the process of setting our core values and and what happened, our office manager came to us after a while, after we started to live and reinforce these core values, and she came to us and said, and we'd been feeling this for a long, like you and I had been feeling this for a long time, that she just was not the right person, and she wasn't in the right seat, to be honest, frankly.
Both, yeah.
Right. She is a typical classical, I promoted her to the position of office manager when she just wasn't the right fit, but she was a loyal employee. She was a great treatment coordinator at the time. And so I promoted her, and she worked in that position for 10 years, maybe less, maybe 8 years. And for 6 of those years, the last 6 of the years, it was a struggle, and it was just and finally, when we set the core values and we got aligned and we started implementing these principles, she actually came to us and said, "Look, either Wood River Dental's gotten too big for me, or I'm too big for Wood River Dental, and I need to go find something else." Right? I mean, if you are consistent with these core values and really live that culture that you are setting, people will know whether they fit in, and they will naturally matriculate in or out.
Yep. And I think that's the power of core values, right? I mean, it really can help you. Beware the person that will grind it out, though, right? Like they know they're a bad fit. You know they're a bad fit,
Yeah.
and they're just
That
gonna.
was a long 6 years. That was hard. We absolutely should have pulled that plug as soon as we identified that that was the issue.
Well, I think it didn't take long once we started enforcing our core values for the change to be made, right? Like it was,
Yeah.
and she saw the writing on the wall. We were positioning to probably let her go, and I think that she kind of felt that coming on, because we knew, and she knew she wasn't the right fit. So, but I think that the point of all this is that it's about alignment first, right? It's not skill first, it's alignment first. I think about that all the time when we were talking on one of our EA excursions that we went on. we were chatting with the doc, and he's like, "Look, when I go to hire," he's like, "I don't care." He loved to talk to people, like, bank tellers and, cashiers at grocery stores. And he's like, "Because I can read their personalities and I'm interested in their personalities first." He says, "I can teach him to be a dental assistant." He's like, "But you can't teach somebody personality, right?" And so he would look for that alignment within the personality when he would go and hire someone. And he would hire, like, people just randomly outside way outside of the industry and then train them up. Well, I mean, one of our best assistants, was a mail carrier, and she has we you can't teach her the personality, and she's got the personality and the disposition and the alignment with our core values, and she's been an amazing fit. We had to train her and teach her how to be an assistant, but we can do that, and so sometimes you got to be a little creative in the way that you hire, and try to fill these seats.
Well, I mean, look at Ryan. Ryan's a classic example, right?
Yeah.
Like, we had a seat that we needed to fill. We didn't know we didn't have the right person. And Ryan had nothing to do with dentistry his whole life, he was outside of dentistry. But we knew, man, he is the right fit, right? He is like core values aligned. This is there is if we could somehow find a way to get him and we hired him and we paid him for a month, 2 months just to learn dentistry, really. It's that valuable to have the right person in the right seat. And since then man, he's the most valuable employee that we have.
MVP. All right, well, let's transition and let's get into how we identify the right seat.
Yeah, the right seat. I think this is where a lot of dentists make this mistake as well because we rely on the traditional positions within a dental office, and that's not bad. You have to have some of those positions. You can't, you need to have assistants and so forth. But when you sit down to create the seats in your organization, you need to ask, first of all, what are the seats that I need for this organization to be successful? You're creating your accountability chart, right? And this is a mistake we make. We say, okay, I have this person. What seat can they go into? You know, and we, like you said it, force a square into a hole, and it doesn't work, right? So you sit down and you make your accountability chart and you say, okay, these are the positions that I need within my organization in order for us to be optimized, to be efficient, to be incredibly successful. And
Yeah.
then you need to ask this question. Once you've identified those and you have the people that you are trying to evaluate, you've identified these 7 people as they're the right person. They have my core values. We align perfectly. We could work well together. I would rehire this person to work with me. Before you assign them to a seat within your organization, you ask these 3 questions. 1, do they get it? Meaning, do they understand the role intuitively? Does it come naturally to them? Can they see what what you're looking for, what this role is? And let me give you an example of this, of, again, a mistake. This EA was built off of my mistakes. I made so many mistakes as a young dentist, and so and that's why I loved traction, because I made so many mistakes that when I read the right way to do it, I was like, I could have saved myself a decade of heartache had I just listened to this. But
It's a book of heartache.
yeah, as a young dentist, I was a young owner. I realized that hygiene is a business within a business. So hygiene is a separate hygiene business within dentistry. So I'm trying to hire this hygiene coordinator who is been a long time assistant, again, in my office. And I sat down. I'm like, okay, so hygiene is a business. I need you to focus on the hygiene side and figure out the business. I can't remember exactly what I said, but that was the point I was trying to get across. She didn't get it, right? It's like in her mind, her role was to fill the hygiene schedule. Period. Got to make calls, get people in. Period. If you're a practicing dentist, you know that the hygiene department is, if to run that as a business, is way more than just trying to fill a schedule. You've got all sorts of metrics. You have all sorts of reappointment metrics, all these things that you need to know and understand in order to make that and run that as a business. And I wasn't very clear in that, or she didn't get it. I think it was probably a combination of both. But even after a couple months, I sat down and said, okay, how are we doing as the like she didn't get it. She wanted it, right? That's the second question. So first, do they get it? Do they want it? She wanted it. Capacity to do it. Did she have the time, the energy, the skill set, like, to execute this position? I don't know if she had the capacity to do it either. So, but I hired her anyways, and again, a constant battle, a struggle, a frustration, miscommunication, all sorts of breakdown of team culture, all because of the wrong she was the right person, she had my core values, but she was in the wrong seat. That wasn't the right seat for her, and that's okay. Sometimes it's a difficult conversation, but it's okay. But they have to have those 3 things. Do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? If those 3 things are good, great. If one of them is missing, that's the wrong seat. You can't put them in that seat.
So I had an epiphany the last couple weeks. If you guys have listened earlier, before, you've probably heard me pop off and ramble about the barriers of success that I believe that exist within dentistry, and it's, I've actually added one more, so I'm up to 5, and hopefully I'm done. But this was a big one, and the one that I added was capacity. So there's ignorance, arrogance, ambivalence, fear, and capacity. So I added capacity because that was a big component that I think I was missing in my list. And I think capacity can be one of 2 things, right? As we look at it, we talk about capacity as, do they have the ability? So capacity can kind of talk about ability, right? It's the skill, whatever. But also there's the flip side of it, meaning like, we always talk about bandwidth, Jared. That's kind of a term we throw around. The capacity can be bandwidth as well. And we often think about it in the sense of us as providers. We're like, oh, do we have the bandwidth as the owner to do all these things? Because our list of responsibilities is massive as a business owner. You have all your clinical responsibilities, and then you have your CEO or president responsibilities, and it's just a massive list of things. And so you're like, oof, I don't know if I have the capacity to take on much more, or bandwidth to take on much more. We probably, most of us have the capacity in the sense of potential, or if we're looking at the business side of things, we probably have that capacity as far as ability and skill, intellect, those things. But if we lack the bandwidth to do it, it's going to go undone. Well, that's not any different than, for our employees. So we have to look and evaluate, okay, do they have the time, energy, skill, these things, of both sides, of both meanings of capacity to do it? And sometimes we have to take a step back and go, holy crap, have I overextended one of my employees, right? Have I overdone it? Where maybe we evaluate them and go, they're dropping the ball here. And it's like, well, how many things am I asking them to do, right? And maybe it's time for a new hire. And it's time you've got the right person, you've got them in the right seat, but you've just maxed them out, and maybe they love it. So they stay after. We've got an assistant that loves her job. She certainly has the capacity, both, as far as like time, energy, and skill. But I worry about her burning out because she overdoes it sometimes, because she will adopt new, like, responsibilities that we don't ask her to do. And because she's fed by it, right? And it's like, okay, well, hold on, you're gonna run your battery out too. And so, there's those times where we have to stop and say, either, maybe we need a new hire, or maybe we need to have that difficult conversation. We're like, hey, you got to slow down a little bit, but that's a blessing, if you have that. But I really do, um, believe that as you look at do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? Sometimes we undervalue the idea of capacity, because I like that you gave the example of getting it. And then the wanting it is alignment, right? So that's what we were talking about there. So the wanting it has to do with alignment, and capacity is a bit to do with alignment. But yeah, again, we're talking about making sure that they are aligned with the role. And I think that's really important, knowing where those right seats are. How many how undervalued, Jared, do you think the accountability chart is?
Oh, I don't know. Everybody always says they have one, but they can never find it. First of all, which means they don't ever use it. And it's hard, all right. It's hard sometimes to know know how to use the accountability chart. That's what I love about EAOS, right? Our adaptation of EOS, which is Entrepreneurial Operating System, we've adapted it to create the Elevation Association Operating System. That's one aspect that I love to work with other offices with on EAOS is talking about their accountability chart and how to use the accountability chart because our default is, oh, we're lacking in this. We need to hire another person. Oh, we need somebody to do this. That costs money and that drives our overhead through the roof.
Yeah.
Let's stop. Don't go that route. Let's stop. Let's ask the question, is our accountability chart clear? Does this responsibility already fall within the accountability chart? If it doesn't, then we've made a mistake and set up the accountability chart. Or it just needs to be adjusted and it needs to be refined. As you go through and you create your accountability chart, you realize you forgot a responsibility or something. Where does before saying, "Oh, so and so would be good at that," right? Don't do that. Say, where in the accountability chart does this fall under the finance department? Does it fall under the operations department? Does it fall? Where in your accountability chart does this naturally fall into the core responsibilities? And then two, who is the person that's supposed to be in charge of this? Are they the right person? Do they have do they get it? They want it. Do they have the capacity to do it? So it's not about hiring more people, right? It's clarifying the seat, the position that you have within your accountability chart, monitoring it, adjusting it, tweaking it, reviewing it, having it available at all times, and then going back to using it. And then that gives you not only does it save you money for not having to hire people, but it helps the culture within your office. Meaning if people know you're using the accountability chart, people know this stops a lot of the he didn't do, she didn't do this, they're supposed to be doing this, they're not supposed to be doing that, right? That all that gets eliminated essentially when you're using this accountability chart, right? So this is the accountability chart, and I love it. It's built right into our EAOS software, right? It's we have this. Everybody has access to it. You can pull it up. You can see it. And so that there's no ambiguity to who's supposed to be doing what, and it provides clarity. Which clarity provides relief. It relieves anxiety when things are not clear. Think about it when you're driving in a snowstorm and you can't see it's anxiety inducing. The same thing is when your roles or responsibilities are not clear in the office, it's anxiety inducing and creates and brings this tension way up. Accountability chart, it's very clear. Let's just go back, let's review it. Oh, okay, this is where it is. Move forward, go on.
Yeah, man, I really believe that the accountability chart is I think it's the most undervalued and underused part of our EAOS framework.
Yeah.
I just think that I think it's because there's the de facto inherited business structure for every practice. And oh, I just took over the structure that was there when I bought it from Dr. So and so, or maybe it was your mom or your dad that you took the practice over from, or what. And it was just this like, and everybody just goes, oh, you have the doctor and you have the assistants and the hygienists, and then you have a they just you will just say, okay, who's the people on your team, and they'll say, well, I have my front desk people. Okay, what's front desk people? Okay, good, front desk people. What is a front desk people? Like, oh, well, a receptionist. And I'm like, okay, that's a general term. What does that mean? What is a receptionist? Like, I hate that term. Like, okay, I'm like, all right, okay, you have a receptionist, whatever that means. And then what else do you have up front? And then sometimes it's like there's like 5 people up front. You're like, why do you have 5 people up front? There's like a coordinator for everything. And I was like, do you really need a coordinator for everything? And then so it's either like one side or the other where it's underdefined, or they have like they're overbuilt on certain positions, certain aspects of the practice, not because they need it, but just because that's what, when they walked in and bought it, that's who was there and that's how it was structured. And it's like, well, I know you love this phrase, Jared. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That the idea of just burying our head in the sand and letting things ride because that's the way grandpa did it, and so that's the way we're gonna do it. It's such a, I'm just gonna say it, man, that's such a lazy way to operate your business. Is just to like, oh, I'm just gonna default into what was ever there, what was there before. We're gonna just run it like that. And so I really think the accountability chart is overlooked because of that fact, because it's like, I don't know. I haven't thoughtfully sat down and thought through what does my practice actually need. It was really cool this, a couple of weeks ago when we had our outfitter course, we had very different practices. And one of the docs that we had there, the way that he runs his practice, he has a lot of he's front end heavy for sure. Like his front desk people. He's heavy there. And as I've talked to him about it, he utilizes all of them, and it's interesting, he's structured in a way that he's a multi-doc practice. And because of that structure, that's his whole, like, no, that's how I want it structured. It's so that I can begin to step away and have someone else come in and fill my role. And to do that, I need these people here. And then we had a periodontist from Washington, DC, who he's also very staff heavy, but he also runs, he's unbelievably productive. He's the biggest producer, single producer we've ever had in Elevation Association. I won't say his numbers, but it was staggering what that office produces. And so to keep all the pieces moving, he has a lot of employees, but he's thoughtfully gone through and said, yeah, this is who I need. This is what I need. And if anything, he's overthought it too much, where it's like, um, maybe defining roles and stuff a little, maybe more than necessary, but he's done such a good job of understanding the needs of the practice and then creating the seats for those needs. And so the bottom line is don't undervalue your accountability chart. Utilize that tool, and really leverage that against your needs of your practice. It will help so, so much.
Yeah. I so let's do this, and let's kind of bring this all together. Let's like kind of wrap it up and talk about like if you're listening to this podcast, you're like, yeah, I need to do this. How? What are the practical steps that I need to do? Let's talk about those steps. Let's talk about how the first thing that we do, and the first thing we talked about, I think, was just defining your core values, right? So,
Yeah.
um, Dan has some great presentations on this on our school page at Elevation Association. If you want to learn more about how to do this, go to Elevation Association school page. And because this is a process, you have to get this right. This is the first step. Get this right, and I would hold off on doing the next step until you actually get this right. Spend some time, spend some weeks, spend some maybe a month or two if you need to on this. Get this right because this is the foundation for how you build this culture in your organization. And then
Yeah.
the next step, as I say, once you get that right, and you're comfortable, you have your 3 to 7 core values, then build your accountability chart. And this is where in EAOS we had to adapt as well a lot from EOS because you have regular organizational charts for a typical small business. Well, we're not typical because we have people in several different portions of the business. Meaning you have some positions that are operations, some people that are operations and finance, some people operations and finance and HR, and whether there's a lot of crossover, which doesn't happen oftentimes in a small business. So the organizational chart or the the accountability chart, which is different, that we have helped design within our software is made to help the dental practice specifically design your practice. So that's where I'd start. Those are the first 2 steps that I would do after that.
Keep going, man. What's the next step?
So once you create the accountability charts and you have your seats set, like this is what I need in my organization. Planning for growth, by the way. So um as you're doing this, I think we said this before. Don't take your current team and say, "Okay, this person is this person is this." Say, "I need, I need a dentist. I need an associate. I need an office manager. I need a treatment coordinator. I need a financial coordinator. I need a hygienist. I need 3 hygienists. I need 2 assistants." Whatever you need position wise, that's how you create your accountability chart. Then when you do it, then you take each member and evaluate them. Okay, this team member, are they the right person? Start with that on all of them. Does Jennifer have the right core values? Does Susie have the right core values? Does Gina have the right core values? Does Mark have whatever it is? Evaluate all the people there, and once you determine that they're the right person, then you have, okay, are they the right person for this seat? Are they the right person to be the treatment coordinator? Do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? And if they're not all three there, then they're not the right person for that seat. And then that's how you go through and you evaluate each team member, first of all, whether you have the right person in the right seat. And then the next step is if they're not, like Susie's been an employee with us for 10 years and she actually is not the right person. Have that hard conversation. And we're telling you, as from experienced practice owners, that's not an easy thing to do. That's really, really hard. And I am the worst at avoiding it and putting it off. I'll put it out there right now, but it's something that needs to be done. We're not some consultants sitting in the backseat saying, "Have that hard conversation. Do it now. Eat that frog." It's hard, harder than you think it is. Yes, I understand it, but it is something that you need to do. And often you'll go into these things filled, if you're like me, filled with anxiety, you just don't sleep the night before because you don't want you're a nice person, you don't want to hurt feelings, but these hard conversations usually end up better for both people.
I have to chime in on that, but that one, Jared, just because it's funny because it's like if you guys have ever heard the stories, when Jared goes out of town, I fire people, and it's kind of a joke, but also not a joke because it's happened a couple times, and so it's good to have a yin and yang in your office. Hopefully, you guys have that dynamic somewhere within your office. That you have someone that picks up your strength, picks up your weaknesses with their strengths, and vice versa. And Jared doesn't give himself credit. He's actually really good at having the hard conversation. It's just that I'm always been ready, shoot, aim, and so Jared, I think at times he's like, okay, I've got this employee that we need to talk to, and I'm leaving out of town. Hopefully, they'll piss Dan off enough that he'll either have the conversation or he'll just fire him.
Sometimes I'll poke the bear before I leave just to prime the situation. Make sure it happens while I'm gone.
And you come up and like, oh, she's doing this again. I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
oh, it's infuriating. Oh, I'll see you in a week.
I'll see you in a week. Feel free to
Uh,
do something about this while I'm gone. Go ahead. That's fine.
well, I think that these are practical steps, right? And I want to kind of wrap things up with after you've made the adjustments, I think that there has to be clarity and purpose when you make adjustments, and you have to be compassionate. You're right. You don't want to be some tyrant and storming around and create. Watch out. Protect your reputation. Be fair. Um, be kind in your actions. The compassion is important because sometimes, you do have to make that change where you have to let somebody go or whatever. And you don't have to be a jerk about it, and certainly, you can maintain your rapport with these people, and I think it's important to keep that in the back of our mind. But I wanted to, there's a great quote by, John Maxwell, and I'm going to read it so I don't screw it up. But he says, a leader is great not because of his or her power, but because of his or her ability to empower others. And I like that. And the thing about that is you can't empower someone that's in the wrong seat. Like I was talking about with alignment earlier, it just won't work. So, but I think that it's important that we do have that ability to empower. Everything that we talked about will do that. It'll empower your employees. It'll make them feel more comfortable. It'll invigorate them in their job, and it'll take a lot of stuff off of your plate. It's so much easier. It's so much better to have the properly organized practice, right? It's such a huge thing.
Yeah, and I think that when you get this right, like you said, it's such a powerful moment, but also such a relieving moment, right? So we we come across dentists all the time who are worried, who are feeling burnout, and there's not one reason why. It's not like there's no magic silver bullet to say, okay, change this one thing and your burnout's gonna go away. That's not what we're saying. That doesn't happen. we're saying, "Hey, let's take a look at all of these things. Let's review the whole one, your whole business system. First of all, your life. Second, your whole business system, and then let's work through each of it step by step until we can adjust that lever a little bit here, adjust this other lever a little bit there, until the burnout starts to decrease and the relief comes. And this is one of the big steps that I think will release a lot of that pressure for you as a leader and a business owner. This will allow you to make this identity shift from practitioner to CEO. Okay, if I'm really going to be the owner of the practice and a business owner, having an accountability chart and making sure all of your people are in the right seats, it's a job, it's a responsibility, and it takes more than 5 minutes. It takes more than an hour, a week of doing of owning your practice. This is something that needs to be reviewed and gone over. And I love that we do that with practices. We meet with practices either on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, and we're that accountability partner. Hey, how's your accountability chart coming? Let's review that. Let's bring that up. Let me walk you through this. Let me give some suggestions on what you think it is. How Let me help you do this formal evaluation of your team members of do they get it, do they want it, the capacity to do it. We will help you through this because we know Dan and I are busy. We just opened up another practice. We're busy. If Dan and I had to sit down and do this by ourselves, it wouldn't get done. I have to say that. Like, we're producers. Yes, but we need somebody, in order for us to have this identity shift as CEO, we really had to have, Ryan come on and help us. And we are now also that person for other practices as well. So if you want some more information on this, check us out. We'd love to help you, work with you on this. This is a very fun aspect of what we do. And we have the software where it's built in and you can just plug it and have access to it at all times. You don't have to print it out on a piece of paper and put it in a binder and lose it. You actually have access to it online at all times. And you can make real time adjustments and changes. And it's so much better than what it used to be. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jared. We would love to share. We actually had a couple people reach out this last week about our new AAOS software, how it's used. If you want to check that out, if you want a demo of that, give us a shout, and we'll set you guys up with a time to show you what it does, how your office can utilize it. It's pretty rad stuff. And yeah, and if anything that we talked about resonates, if you feel like, oh my gosh, like we would love to, like Jared was saying, to sit down with you and just work through some of this stuff. So reach out to us. You can reach us by email, elevationassociation@gmail.com, or go to our website, elevationassociation.com. And like Jared was saying, there's the resources on school if you want to get some CE and help build your practice and sharpen your business repertoire. And jump on there and take some CE courses. All right, man. Any other thoughts before we sign off?
No, sounds
Yeah.
great. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Cheers.
Adios.